She was offered at half price, yet no one dared bid. Until a lone cowboy lifted his hand, the auction block stood in the center of Redemption's dusty square, and Kate Morrison barely felt the rough wood beneath her bare feet anymore. 3 days she had been standing here, 3 days since the bank seized everything her dead husband owed, including her. The auctioneer's voice cracked as he dropped the price again. $500. 400. 300. The crowd of ranchers and merchants shifted uncomfortably, their eyes sliding away from hers. Everyone knew the stories. Everyone had heard what happened at the Silver Creek Ranch. Kate kept her chin up, refusing to let them see her break. The rope burns on her wrists had scabbed over, hidden beneath the torn sleeves of her dress. She had survived worse than their judgment. The auctioneer wiped sweat from his forehead despite the cool morning air. His desperation grew with each passing minute. The law required him to sell her contract, but no man wanted the trouble she represented. $200. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Kate watched a merchant lean close to his companion, whispering behind his hand. She caught fragments of their conversation. Cursed. Dangerous. 3 men dead. The whispers had followed her for months, growing wilder with each retelling. Some said she had poisoned her husband. Others claimed she had made a deal with something dark that lived in the desert. The truth was simpler and somehow worse. $100. Half price for a woman's 7-year contract. The auctioneer's face had gone pale. He looked ready to call off the whole affair, legal complications be damned. Kate felt something cold settle in her stomach. If no one bought her contract, the territorial marshal would step in. She would disappear into the prison work camps, and no one would ask questions. Women vanished into those places and never came out. The crowd began to disperse. Men turned away, suddenly interested in their boots or the buildings across the square. Kate's fingers curled into fists at her sides. She would not beg. She would not give them that satisfaction. The auctioneer opened his mouth to declare the sale void. Then a hand rose from the back of the thinning crowd. The movement was casual, almost lazy, but it froze everyone in place. Kate's eyes found him immediately. He stood apart from the others, leaning against a hitching post with his hat pulled low. His clothes were trail-worn, his boots scuffed with hard miles. A gun belt sat low on his hips, the revolver showing the kind of care that spoke of regular use. But it was his eyes that caught her attention. They were the color of winter sky, cold and assessing, and they looked at her without the fear or disgust she had grown accustomed to. The auctioneer's relief was palpable. He practically shouted his acceptance, as if afraid the stranger would change his mind. $100 for Kate Morrison's contract. The cowboy stepped forward, counting out coins with deliberate precision. His hands were scarred, she noticed, the kind of old wounds that came from rope and leather and harder things. He did not speak to her as he took the contract papers, did not offer empty reassurances or make threats. He simply jerked his head toward a horse tied at the edge of the square and walked in that direction. Kate followed, her legs unsteady after 3 days of standing. She expected comments from the crowd, jeers or warnings, but silence followed them instead, the kind of heavy silence that meant everyone was thinking the same thing but no one dared say it aloud. The cowboy's horse was a rangy buckskin with intelligent eyes. He swung into the saddle with practiced ease, then reached down. Kate hesitated only a moment before taking his hand. His grip was iron-strong as he pulled her up behind him. She barely had time to settle before he urged the horse into a canter. Redemption fell away behind them, swallowed by dust and distance. Kate gripped the back of his saddle, her mind racing. She knew nothing about this man. Not his name, not his intentions, not why he had been willing to bid when no one else would. The smart thing would be to ask questions, to establish some understanding of what he expected from her. But the words stuck in her throat. They rode for an hour before he finally spoke. His voice was rough, like he didn't use it often. There's water in the canteen on your left, food in the saddlebag. Kate found both, her hands shaking slightly as she drank. The water was cool and clean, better than anything she had tasted in days. She forced herself to eat slowly, though her stomach cramped with hunger. The landscape changed as they traveled, the scrubland giving way to rougher country. Red rocks jutted from the earth like broken teeth. The sun climbed higher, beating down with relentless intensity. Kate's dress was not made for riding, and she felt every jolt and movement. Still, she did not complain. Whatever lay ahead could not be worse than what she had left behind. Near midday, the cowboy guided them into a narrow canyon. The walls rose steep on either side, providing blessed shade. He dismounted near a spring that bubbled from between rocks, letting the horse drink. Kate slid down, her legs nearly buckling. She knelt by the water, splashing it on her face and neck. "Name's Cole Barrett." He said it while checking the horse's hooves, not looking at her. Kate straightened, water dripping from her chin. You know mine already. Her voice came out harder than she intended. Cole nodded, still focused on the horse. Heard the stories too. Don't care much for stories. He moved to the saddlebags, pulling out strips of dried meat. We've got 3 more days of riding. You can handle that, or I can leave you at the next town with enough money for a stage ticket east. Kate stared at him. It was not what she had expected. Not a threat or a demand, but a choice. She thought about the east, about disappearing into some city where no one knew her past. It was tempting. Safe. She surprised herself with her answer. All right. Cole's expression did not change, but something in his posture relaxed slightly. He handed her the dried meat and returned to the horse. Kate chewed slowly, studying him. He moved with the efficiency of a man used to solitude, wasting no motion. When he finally settled against a rock to rest, his hand never strayed far from his gun. What's 3 days north? Kate asked. Cole tipped his hat over his eyes. Work, he said simply. The kind that needs 2 people and doesn't ask questions. He was quiet for a moment, then added, the kind that might get us both killed. Kate felt something like a smile tug at her lips. It was the first honest thing anyone had said to her in months. She leaned back against the cool stone, closing her eyes against the bright slice of sky visible above the canyon walls. For the first time in days, she felt something other than despair. Fear, maybe, or anticipation. But at least it was not nothing. The desert stretched endlessly before them, Cole pushing the buckskin hard, but not cruel. Kate learned to move with the horse's rhythm, her body adapting to the demands of long riding. They spoke little during those 3 days, but she began to understand him through his actions. He always gave her first access to water, always positioned himself between her and the open desert when they stopped, always kept watch while she slept. On the second night, camped beneath stars so bright they seemed close enough to touch, Kate finally asked the question that had been burning in her mind. Why did you bid for my contract? Cole was cleaning his gun, the metal pieces spread on a cloth before him. He did not look up. Needed help. You needed out. Seemed fair. The stories don't bother you? Kate pressed. Dead men. A cursed woman. Cole reassembled the revolver with quick, sure movements. I've heard worse stories about myself. Most of them true. He slid the gun back into its holster and met her eyes across the small fire. Did you kill them? Yes. Kate did not flinch from the admission. My husband sold me to pay his gambling debts. The first man who bought my contract tried to break me. The second thought he could do worse. The third was just stupid enough to let me get hold of a knife. Cole nodded slowly, as if she had confirmed something he already suspected. Law see it different? Law sees a woman who killed 3 men. Doesn't matter why. Kate poked at the fire with a stick, sending sparks spiraling into the darkness. The territorial judge was the third man's cousin. That's why they seized everything and put me on the block. Legal punishment. Convenient, Cole said dryly. He stretched out on his bedroll, hat over his face once more. Get some sleep. Tomorrow we reach the border country. Kate lay awake long after his breathing had evened into sleep. The border country. She had heard whispers about those lawless stretches where territories met and no authority held full sway. It was where desperate people went, where the law's reach grew uncertain. She should be afraid. Instead, she felt something like relief. The third day brought them to rougher terrain. The flat desert gave way to broken hills and twisted arroyos. Cole guided them through narrow passages that barely accommodated the horse, following some path only he could see. Kate spotted old campfire rings, sun-bleached bones, and once a grave marked by stones but no name. Late afternoon found them approaching a ramshackle structure that generously might be called a ranch, a house listing to one side. A barn with more holes than walls, corrals that looked ready to collapse in the next strong wind. But there were horses in those corrals, Kate noticed. Good horses. Far better than the condition of the building suggested. A woman stepped onto the porch as they approached. She was maybe 50, her face weathered by sun and hardship, a shotgun cradled in her arms with the comfort of long familiarity. Her eyes swept over Cole and Kate with sharp assessment. You're late, she said to Cole. Had trouble? Complications. Cole dismounted, helping Kate down. This is Kate Morrison. Kate, meet Maggie Cross. She runs this operation. Maggie's eyes narrowed. The auction in redemption. It was not a question. Kate felt the weight of judgment coming again, but Maggie surprised her. Good. Means you know how to survive. You'll need that here. She jerked her head toward the house. Get cleaned up. Food in an hour. Cole will explain the work. The house's interior was cleaner than the exterior suggested, sparse but functional. Maggie showed Kate to a small room with a bed and wash basin. There's clothes in the trunk. Should fit near enough. She paused at the door. Cole told me what you did. Those men had it coming. Anyone says different can answer to me. Kate found herself blinking back sudden tears. She nodded, not trusting her voice. Maggie left, and Kate finally let herself collapse onto the bed. The exhaustion of 3 days riding hit her all at once, but she forced herself up, stripping off the torn dress and washing away days of grime. The clothes in the trunk were men's work pants and shirts, practical and sturdy. They fit well enough. When she emerged, she found Cole and Maggie at a rough table, a map spread between them. Cole looked up as she entered. Feel human again? Kate almost smiled. Getting there. Maggie pushed a plate toward her. Beans and cornbread, simple but hot. Kate ate while they talked. The work is simple enough to explain, Maggie said. Hard as hell to execute. We move horses across the border. Not stolen. Not exactly legal either. Gray area that keeps us alive. Why horses? Kate asked. Cole traced a line on the map. Mexican army needs them. Pays good money, no questions asked. But official channels are complicated. Expensive. We provide a simpler solution, and the people who usually control that trade don't like competition, Maggie added grimly. Lost 3 runners in the past 6 months. That's why we need fresh faces. People the cartel soldiers won't recognize immediately. Kate set down her fork. You bought my contract knowing I'd be useful for smuggling. Bought your contract because everyone else was too scared, Cole corrected. The smuggling is just what comes next. You want out? There's the door. I'll give you stake money for a new start. Kate looked between them, Maggie's scarred hands resting on the shotgun. Cole's steady gaze offering her a choice instead of demands. The ramshackle ranch that hid good horses and dangerous work. She thought about the prison camps. About spending the rest of her life running from her past. About the 3 men she had killed and the fact that she would do it again without hesitation. When do we ride? She asked. Maggie's face split into a fierce grin. Tomorrow night. New moon. Best cover. She rolled up the map. Cole will show you the route. Study it hard. Your life depends on knowing every rock and ravine between here and the border.
Cole stood, gesturing for Kate to follow.
They walked out to the corrals where the horses moved restlessly in the fading light. Maggie started this operation 5 years ago, he said quietly. After her husband got killed by claim jumpers and the law did nothing, built it from nothing into something that actually works. And you? Kate asked. Cole was silent for a long moment, watching the horses. I was running from my own past. She gave me a chance. Figured I'd pay that forward. He turned to face her fully. What we do is dangerous. The cartels don't forgive mistakes. The law on both sides would hang us if they could prove anything. But it's honest work, in its own way. We're not hurting anyone who doesn't deserve hurting. Kate understood what he was really saying. This was a place for people like them. People who had nowhere else to go. People who would fight to protect what little they had carved out. Show me the route, she said. They spent the rest of the evening going over maps and landmarks. Kate committed everything to memory, knowing Cole was right about her life depending on it. The route twisted through border country that belonged to no one and everyone, following dry riverbeds and hidden canyons. There were checkpoints to avoid, patrol patterns to memorize, safe houses marked by subtle signs. Maggie joined them later, adding details from her own experiences. The cartels we're crossing will kill you for sport if they catch you, she said bluntly. But they're also businessmen. They understand competition. It's the federales on both sides you really need to watch for. They'll arrest you just to shake you down for bribes. And if we can't pay? Kate asked. Maggie's expression hardened. Then you disappear into a prison hole, or worse. She tapped the map. That's why we move fast and quiet. Get the horses across, get paid, get back before anyone knows we were there. Night fell fully and Maggie declared them done with planning. Cole showed Kate to the small bunkhouse behind the main building. It was cleaner than she expected, with 2 beds and a stove. We leave at dusk tomorrow, he said. Get rest while you can. Kate lay in the unfamiliar bed, listening to the sounds of the desert night. Somewhere out there was the border, and beyond it, a dangerous game she had agreed to play. She should be terrified. Instead, she felt more alive than she had in months. When sleep finally came, she dreamed of wide-open spaces and the thunder of hoofbeats. Dawn broke hot and bright. Kate woke to find Cole already up, checking gear in the early light. She joined him, learning the specifics of their equipment: light saddles for speed, canteens filled to capacity, rifles in saddle scabbards, revolvers on their hips. Everything chosen for efficiency and survival. Maggie appeared with breakfast and final instructions. You'll be taking 6 horses across. Pick the ones that can handle rough country and keep pace. Cole knows the reliable animals. She fixed Kate with a hard stare. First rule is simple. Don't get caught. Second rule. If you do get caught, scatter. Save yourself. The horses aren't worth dying for. Third rule, Cole added. Trust your instincts. Something feels wrong, it probably is. They spent the day preparing, checking, and rechecking everything. Kate selected horses under Cole's guidance, learning to assess their stamina and temperament with a practiced eye. These were not the finest animals, she realized, but they were solid and dependable, the kind that would not panic in bad situations. As the sun began its descent, tension settled over the ranch. Maggie came out to see them off, her shotgun present as always. Weather looks clear. New moon means dark riding, but that works in your favor. She gripped Cole's shoulder briefly, then turned to Kate. You've got good instincts, girl. Use them. Cole and Kate mounted up, the string of 6 horses trailing behind them on lead ropes. The animals moved quietly, already accustomed to this work. Kate took a last look at the ramshackle ranch, then faced forward. The border country waited, and with it, her first real test. They rode into the gathering dusk, the world turning purple and gold. Cole set a steady pace, not rushing but not wasting time. The horses followed easily, their hoofbeats muffled in the sandy soil. Kate felt her senses sharpen, every sound and shadow taking on new significance. An hour in, they left the last traces of civilization behind. The land grew wilder, more broken. Cole navigated by landmarks invisible to Kate's untrained eye, a slight deviation here, a specific rock formation there. She followed his lead, learning the route through action rather than maps. Full darkness fell like a curtain. The new moon provided no light, only stars scattered across the vast sky. Kate's eyes adjusted slowly, learning to see in shades of black and gray. Cole became a shadow ahead of her, barely visible except when he shifted position. The horses moved like ghosts. 2 hours into the ride, Cole raised a hand in sudden warning. Kate froze, her hand dropping to her revolver. She heard it then, the distant sound of voices carried on the night wind. Cole gestured for her to follow, angling away from the sound. They moved slowly now, placing each step with care. The voices faded behind them. Kate released a breath she had not realized she was holding. Cole did not slow their pace, pushing forward with renewed urgency. Whatever they had avoided, it had cost them time. Near midnight, they reached the first major landmark on their route, a canyon that cut deep into the earth, its walls jagged against the stars. Cole led them down a treacherous path that switched back on itself, the horses picking their way with careful steps. Kate felt sweat trickle down her back despite the cool night air. One wrong step would send them tumbling into darkness. They reached the canyon floor without incident. A trickle of water ran through the center, just enough for the horses to drink. Cole allowed a brief rest, though his posture remained tense and alert. Kate checked their animals, finding them all steady and calm. "How much farther to the border?" she whispered. Cole's voice came back equally quiet. 3 hours. Then the real work starts. They pressed on, following the canyon until it widened into a broad valley. Here the terrain opened up, offering less cover but easier travel. Cole increased their pace, clearly wanting to cross this exposed section quickly. Kate felt vulnerable under the vast sky, aware that they could be spotted from miles away if anyone was watching. The border itself was unmarked, just an arbitrary line crossing empty desert, but Kate felt the change the moment they crossed it. The air seemed different, charged with tension. They were in Mexico now, moving through country controlled by forces that would kill them without hesitation. Cole led them to a dry riverbed, following its twisting course south. The horses' hooves clicked on smooth stones, the sound seeming impossibly loud in the silence. Kate's nerves stretched taut, expecting trouble at every turn. But the night remained quiet, except for distant coyote calls. An hour past the border, Cole guided them up out of the riverbed toward a cluster of rocks. As they approached, Kate made out the shape of a small adobe structure, barely more than a hut. Cole dismounted, motioning for Kate to do the same. A figure emerged from the hut, moving with cautious deliberation. Kate's hand went to her gun, but Cole's gesture stopped her. The man approached into the faint starlight, revealing weathered features and calculating eyes. He and Cole exchanged words in rapid Spanish, too quick for Kate to follow. Money changed hands, crisp bills that the man counted with practiced speed. He examined each horse carefully, running his hands over their legs and checking their teeth. Finally he nodded, apparently satisfied. He whistled sharply, and 2 younger men appeared to take the horses. Cole and Kate were left standing in the darkness, suddenly lighter by 6 horses and heavier by the weight of Mexican silver coins. The man gestured toward the hut, speaking to Cole again. Cole shook his head firmly, pointing back the way they had come. The man shrugged and disappeared back inside. "We move now," Cole said quietly. "Before anyone decides 6 horses were worth more than what they paid." They mounted quickly, turning their horses north. Without the string of animals trailing behind, they could move faster. Cole pushed their pace to a steady canter, eating up ground. Kate glanced back once, but the adobe hut had already vanished into the darkness. The return journey felt longer, though Kate knew it was not. Every shadow seemed threatening. Every sound made her hand drift toward her weapon. They followed their original route in reverse, Cole navigating by memory through the lightless desert. They were halfway back to the border when disaster struck. The sound of hoofbeats came from their left. Too many horses moving too fast. Cole cursed and spurred forward. Kate followed, her heart hammering. The pursuing horses gained, their riders shouting to each other. Cole veered sharply into a rocky outcropping, dismounting even as his horse slid to a stop. Kate copied him, and they pulled their horses into a narrow crevice between boulders. The buckskin snorted nervously, but Cole's hand on its nose kept it quiet. Kate held her own mount steady, barely breathing. The pursuers thundered past, so close Kate could have reached out and touched them. At least a dozen riders, armed and angry about something. Their voices faded into the distance, still searching. Cole and Kate remained frozen, waiting. 5 minutes passed. 10. Finally, Cole relaxed fractionally. "Cartel patrol," he whispered. "Looking for someone. Lucky they were not looking for us." They waited another 20 minutes before carefully emerging from their hiding spot. The desert had returned to silence. Cole led them north again, but by a different route this time, adding miles to avoid the patrol's search pattern. Dawn was breaking as they finally crossed back into American territory. The rising sun painted the desert in shades of orange and red, beautiful and merciless. Kate felt exhaustion pulling at her, but also fierce satisfaction. They had done it. Survived their first run. The ramshackle ranch appeared in the distance like a mirage. Maggie stood on the porch, her shotgun ever present. Her face split into a rare smile as they rode in. "Saw you coming from a mile off. Any trouble?" "Cartel patrol," Cole reported, dismounting stiffly. "Got past them clean." Maggie nodded, clearly relieved. She turned to Kate. "How'd she do?" "Kept her head. Followed orders. Did not panic." Cole handed over the payment pouch. "She'll work." Kate slid from her horse, her legs trembling with fatigue. Maggie caught her with a steadying hand. "Get some food and sleep. You've earned both." She pocketed the payment without counting it, trust implicit in the gesture. Inside, Kate collapsed onto her bunk fully clothed. She was asleep before her head hit the pillow, dreams filled with starlight and thunder and the constant awareness of danger just beyond sight. She woke near sunset to find Cole already up and moving. He had cleaned his guns and was now working on the saddles, checking every strap and buckle. Kate joined him wordlessly, learning through observation. The work had a meditative quality, repetitive and focusing. "Next run is in 4 days," Cole said without preamble. "Different route. Same risk." Kate nodded. She had expected this. One successful crossing did not make her valuable. Only consistency would do that. What else needs doing between runs? Ranch work. Maggie's got paying customers for horse training. Keeps up appearances and brings in legitimate money. Cole set aside the saddle he had been working on. Also gives us cover if the law comes sniffing around. The next 4 days fell into a pattern. Mornings were spent working with horses, training them for sale to legitimate buyers. Afternoons were for preparation, studying new routes and checking gear. Evenings brought planning sessions with Maggie, going over market intelligence and patrol patterns. Kate learned the operation's scope during those sessions. Maggie ran a sophisticated network, buying horses cheap from desperate sellers, improving them through training, then moving them through various channels. Some went to legal buyers, others crossed the border. The money from illegal sales funded the legal operation, creating a self-sustaining cycle. "The key is balance," Maggie explained. Too much illegal activity draws attention. Too little, and we cannot fund operations. We walk a line every day. The second run came on schedule. This time they took 8 horses through a different route, one that wound through higher elevations. The journey was longer but offered more cover. They encountered a different buyer, this one operating from a proper ranch with guards and dogs. The transaction was professional and quick. On the return, they ran into a dust storm that forced them to shelter in a cave for hours. Kate and Cole sat in silence, listening to the wind howl outside. When it finally passed, they emerged to find the landscape transformed, familiar landmarks buried under new dunes. Cole navigated by the stars, trusting his sense of direction more than his eyes. They made it back as dawn broke, exhausted but successful. Maggie greeted them with hot coffee and warm food. "Weather report says more storms coming," she said. "We'll have to adjust the schedule." Weeks blended together. Kate made 6 runs in total, each one different but following the same basic pattern. Cross at night. Move fast. Avoid patrols. Complete the exchange. Return before dawn. She learned to read the desert like a book, understanding its moods and dangers. Between runs, she trained horses and slowly earned her place in Maggie's operation. The older woman treated her as an equal now, trusting her judgment on which animals would make the journey and which would not. Cole remained largely silent, but Kate noticed his approval in small gestures. A nod when she made a good call. An extra portion of food after a hard run. On her 7th run, everything went wrong. They were moving 10 horses this time, the largest string yet. The buyer was paying premium prices, making the risk worthwhile. Cole and Kate crossed the border without incident, following a route they had used twice before. The exchange point was a ruined mission, its walls crumbling but still providing adequate cover. The buyer was late. Cole's tension increased with each passing minute. They waited in the mission's shadow, the horses restless and nervous. Kate felt it too, that sense of wrongness she had learned to trust. When the buyer finally appeared, he was not alone. 6 armed men accompanied him, more than usual. Cole's hand drifted to his gun, but he kept his expression neutral. The buyer, a fat man who sweated despite the cool night, seemed nervous. The exchange began normally enough. Money counted, horses inspected. But then the buyer made a signal, and his men moved to surround Cole and Kate. The trap snapped shut with brutal efficiency. Cole drew faster than Kate had ever seen anyone move. His first shot took the nearest man in the shoulder, spinning him around. Kate pulled her own gun, firing at another guard. The enclosed space erupted in gunfire and shouting. The horses panicked, breaking free of their lead ropes and scattering into the night. Kate dove behind a section of wall as bullets chipped stone above her head. She could see Cole on the other side of the mission courtyard, pinned down but still fighting. 3 guards focused on Kate, advancing with weapons raised. She fired carefully, making each shot count. 1 man fell. Another retreated, clutching a wounded leg. The 3rd got close enough that Kate could see his face, twisted with rage and fear. She shot him in the chest. He fell backwards, surprise frozen on his features. Kate felt nothing, no guilt, no horror. Just cold determination to survive. The remaining guards were retreating now, dragging their wounded. The fat buyer had disappeared entirely, fleeing into the desert. Kate ran to Cole, finding him bleeding from a shallow graze across his ribs. "Can you ride?" she asked urgently. "Have to." Cole gritted his teeth and stood. They found their horses, miraculously still nearby. The string of 10 horses they had brought was gone, scattered across miles of desert. The money was gone too, taken by the fleeing buyer. They rode hard for the border, expecting pursuit at any moment. But the night remained quiet except for their labored breathing and the horses' hoofbeats. They did not slow until they were well into American territory, the danger finally receding. Dawn found them approaching the ranch, both wounded and exhausted. Maggie took one look at them and began barking orders. She cleaned and bandaged Cole's wound while Kate collapsed on the porch. The older woman's hands were gentle despite her gruff manner. "Tell me everything," Maggie demanded once Cole was patched up. They recounted the ambush in detail. Maggie's face grew darker with each word. "Someone sold us out," she said finally. "Someone told them we were coming." The implications settled over them like a physical weight. Their operation had been compromised. Trust, the foundation of everything, had been broken. Maggie paced the porch, thinking hard. "We need to find out who. Fast. Before they hit us again." Cole nodded grimly. "I've got contacts. People who hear things. Give me 2 days." Kate listened to them plan, her mind racing. She had killed more men tonight. The count was up to 7 now, not including the one she had wounded, the territorial judge's cousin. her husband, the 2 contract holders, and now 3 cartel guards, 7 lives taken by her hand. She waited for guilt or horror to surface. Instead, she felt only a bone-deep weariness. These were dangerous times, dangerous places. She would do what she had to do to survive. That was all there was to it. 2 days later, Cole returned with information. He gathered Kate and Maggie in the house, his expression grim. The buyer we were supposed to meet got hit by a rival cartel 3 days ago, killed along with his entire crew. He paused, letting that sink in. The fat man who set up the ambush was working for the rivals. They wanted our horses and our money. 2 for the price of 1. How did they know our schedule? Maggie asked sharply. Cole's jaw tightened. That part is still unclear. Could be they were watching the real buyer and saw the pattern. Could be someone in the network talked. He looked at both women. Either way, we need to change everything. New routes, new buyers, new schedules. Maggie nodded slowly. We shut down for 2 weeks, let things cool off. Use the time to rebuild our security. She met Kate's eyes. You proved yourself tonight. Kept your head when things went bad. That is worth more than a successful run. Kate felt something loosen in her chest. Acceptance. Respect. She had found a place here, carved out with blood and determination. It was not the life she had imagined, but it was hers. The 2 weeks passed in careful preparation. Maggie reached out to new contacts, feeling out who could be trusted. Cole scouted new routes, looking for paths that avoided known cartel territories. Kate trained horses and stood watch, her revolver always close at hand. On the 15th day, 3 men rode up to the ranch. Kate recognized trouble immediately. They were too well dressed for honest work, their horses too fine. She called out to Maggie, who emerged with her shotgun. The lead rider dismounted with casual arrogance. Maggie Cross, been a while. His smile did not reach his eyes. Maggie's face had gone carefully blank. Carl Reston, do you... Heard you were running cattle in Montana. Change of plans. Carl looked around the ranch, his gaze calculating. Heard you had some trouble down south. Thought you might need help securing your operation. We handle our own security, Maggie said flatly. Carl's smile widened. That's what I hear. Also heard you lost 10 horses and a pile of money in that ambush. He let the words hang. Funny how these things happen. Almost like someone wanted you to have problems. Kate felt cold certainty settle in her gut. This man knew too much. Cole stepped out of the barn, his presence changing the dynamic immediately. Carl's smile faltered slightly. Cole Barrett. Should have known you were mixed up in this. State your business and ride on, Cole said quietly. The menace in his voice was unmistakable. Carl held up his hands in mock surrender. Just offering assistance. This border trade can be dangerous for small operations. Might be wise to consolidate, work together. We work alone, Maggie said. Always have. Carl's expression hardened. That's a shame. Really is. He remounted his horse, his companions doing the same. You might reconsider. Things could get worse before they get better. He tipped his hat with mock courtesy. Think about it. They rode off, leaving a cloud of dust and implied threats. Maggie lowered her shotgun, her knuckles white on the barrel. That's who sold us out. Has to be. Carl's been trying to control all the border trade for years. Cole nodded agreement. He's got the reach and the motivation. Question is, what do we do about it? We fight, Kate said simply. Both of them looked at her. She met their gazes steadily. He wants us out or under his control. We don't fold. We fight smarter and meaner than he expects. Maggie's fierce grin returned. Girl's got the right idea. She looked at Cole. Can we win? Cole was quiet for a long moment. Maybe. Carl's got more men and resources, but we know this country better. We're faster and less predictable. He paused. It will be bloody. Everything worth fighting for usually is, Maggie said. She turned to Kate. You signed on for smuggling horses. Not a war. No shame in walking away. Kate thought about the auction block and redemption, about 3 days of standing in the sun while men decided her worth, about the prison camps where women disappeared, about finding a place where people looked at her with respect instead of fear. I'm staying, she said. The war started quietly. Supplies went missing, fences got cut. Small acts of sabotage designed to frustrate and demoralize. Maggie responded in kind, using her network to spread rumors about Carl's operation. Unreliable deliveries, bad horses, anything to damage his reputation. Carl escalated. One of Maggie's legitimate customers was threatened, warned away from doing business with her. Kate and Cole delivered the next batch of horses to that customer personally, making it clear that threats worked both ways. The customer stayed loyal. 2 weeks into the conflict, Carl made his first serious move. A night raid on the ranch, 6 men trying to burn down the barn. Maggie, Kate, and Cole were ready. They had been taking turns on watch every night since Carl's visit. Kate spotted them coming, shadows moving across the desert. She woke the others silently, and they took positions. The raiders never made it to the barn. Gunfire erupted in the darkness, brief and brutal. 3 raiders went down, the others fled, leaving their wounded behind. Cole wanted to chase them, but Maggie held him back. Let them report failure. Let Carl know we're not easy prey. She looked at the wounded raiders, groaning in the dirt. Patch them up enough to ride, then send them home, with a message. Kate helped bandage the wounded men, her touch neither gentle nor cruel, simply efficient. When they could sit a horse, Cole tied them in their saddles and sent them north with Maggie's message. Tell Carl Reston this land is claimed. He's not welcome here. The next attack came 3 days later, more coordinated and dangerous. 8 men hit them at dawn, trying to catch them unprepared. But Maggie had prepared for everything. Hidden positions, clear fields of fire, ammunition stockpiled at strategic points. The battle lasted 30 minutes. When it ended, 4 of Carl's men were dead. 2 were wounded, and 2 had retreated. On Maggie's side, Cole took a bullet through the arm, and Kate caught a graze across her shoulder. The ranch itself suffered damage, several buildings pockmarked with bullet holes. They buried Carl's dead in unmarked graves and sent the wounded back with another message. Next time, come yourself. Carl's response was personal and vicious. He sent men to redemption, spreading stories about Maggie's operation, about the criminal enterprise she ran, about the dangerous fugitives she harbored. The territorial marshal came calling a week later. He was a lean man with cold eyes and a badge that carried real authority. He examined the ranch with obvious suspicion, noting the bullet damage and the defensive preparations. Maggie met him with coffee and apparent cooperation. Marshal Crane, what brings you out this way? Maggie's voice was pleasant, giving away nothing. Crane accepted the coffee but did not drink. Heard some concerning reports. Illegal activity, smuggling, possible ties to Mexican cartels. Concerning indeed, Maggie agreed. If it were true, Crane's eyes hardened. I've got 3 witnesses who saw your people moving horses across the border. Witnesses with names? Maggie asked. Or just convenient stories from competitors trying to shut down an honest business? The marshal did not answer. His gaze moved to Kate and Cole, standing behind Maggie. These your hired hands? Kate felt his attention focus on her specifically. Recognition flickered in his eyes. You look familiar. Common face, Kate said evenly. But she knew he was placing her. The auction and redemption, the stories. The cursed woman who killed 3 men. Crane's expression confirmed it. Kate Morrison. Thought you'd been sold off and disappeared. Interesting that you're here. I work for Miss Cross now, Kate said. Legal contract? Legal, Crane repeated with heavy skepticism. He turned back to Maggie. I'll be watching this operation. Any proof of criminal activity, I'll shut you down and arrest everyone here. He set down his untouched coffee and mounted his horse. Consider this your only warning. Carl's playing smart. Can't beat us with guns, so he's using the law. She looked at Kate. That marshal recognized you. Makes you a liability. Kate's stomach dropped. After everything, after proving herself, was she going to be cast out? Maggie seemed to read her thoughts. I said you're a liability. Did not say I was giving you up. She smiled grimly. We just need to be more careful. No more border runs for a while. Focus on the legitimate business until this blows over. But Carl was not done. 3 days later, Maggie's best customer was found dead, killed in an apparent robbery. The timing was too convenient. The message was clear. Work with Maggie Cross and die. Other customers started backing away, unwilling to risk Carl's wrath. The legitimate money dried up. Maggie's face grew harder with each loss, but she did not break.
We've still got savings. We can outlast him.
Cole was less optimistic. He's strangling us. Another month and we will not have money for feed, let alone anything else. He looked at Maggie. We need to hit him back. Hard. Make it too expensive for him to keep coming after us. What did you have in mind? Maggie asked. Cole spread a map on the table. Carl's operation is bigger than ours, but it's also more exposed. He's got a main depot where he stages horses before border crossings. Big facility, lots of guards. But I know a way in. Kate studied the map, seeing what Cole was suggesting.
You want to steal his horses?
Cole nodded. Free them. Turn them loose in the desert. Cost him a fortune and make him look incompetent to his buyers. It was a bold plan. Suicidal, maybe. But Kate saw the logic. A devastating blow that would weaken Carl without outright murdering his people. It might even force him to negotiate. Maggie considered it for a long time. Finally, she nodded. When? New moon. 4 days. Cole looked at both women. This will be the most dangerous thing any of us have done. If we get caught, we will not walk away. Then we don't get caught, Kate said simply. The next 4 days were spent in intensive preparation. Cole scouted the depot from a distance, timing guard rotations and noting weak points. Kate practiced moving silently through the night, relearning skills from her childhood. Maggie assembled the equipment they would need: wire cutters, dark clothes, weapons as a last resort. On the night of the new moon, they rode out. Not toward the border this time, but east, toward Carl's operation. The depot sat in a valley, surrounded by corrals holding over 100 horses. Guards patrolled the perimeter with torches, their presence advertised rather than concealed. Cole led them to a rocky outcrop overlooking the valley. They dismounted and left their horses tied, continuing on foot. The descent was treacherous in the darkness, requiring careful steps and absolute silence. Kate's heart hammered in her chest, but her hands remained steady. They reached the outer corrals an hour before dawn. The guards had grown lax, their patrols predictable and slow. Cole pointed to a section of fence between patrol routes. Kate and Maggie nodded understanding. When the nearest guard passed, they moved. Kate reached the fence first, her wire cutters working quickly. The strands parted with soft pings that sounded loud in the quiet night. Maggie held the fence steady while Cole whistled softly to the horses inside. The animals approached cautiously, sensing freedom. Cole opened the gap wider and they began to slip through. 1, 5, 10. The trickle became a flood as more horses realized they could escape. They moved with surprising quiet, instinct guiding them away from captivity. A shout went up from the depot. A guard had spotted the escaping horses. Torches flared as more guards ran to respond. Cole, Kate, and Maggie were already running back toward their hidden horses, the rocky terrain covering their retreat. Behind them, chaos erupted. Horses scattered in all directions, impossible to corral in the darkness. Guards shouted conflicting orders. Someone fired a gun, which only spooked the horses further. Kate allowed herself a grim smile as they reached their mounts and swung into the saddles. They rode hard for home, not stopping until the depot was miles behind them. The pre-dawn light was just starting to glow on the horizon when they finally slowed. Cole was grinning, the expression so rare it transformed his face. That went better than I expected. Maggie laughed, the sound wild and free. Carl's going to lose his mind. Cost him a fortune and made him look like a fool. Kate felt exhilaration surging through her veins. They had struck back, proven they were not helpless. The war was far from over, but this victory tasted sweet. They made it back to the ranch as the sun rose fully. For the first time in weeks, the tension had lifted slightly. They had shown Carl that they could hurt him as badly as he could hurt them. The balance of power had shifted. 2 days later, Carl came to the ranch himself. He rode in alone, his hands clearly visible and empty. Maggie met him at the property line, shotgun cradled in her arms. Cole and Kate flanked her, weapons ready but not raised. I'll say this for you, Carl said without preamble. You've got bigger balls than I gave you credit for. There was respect in his voice, grudging but real. That stunt at my depot cost me $20,000 in 3 major contracts. Good, Maggie said flatly. Carl's jaw tightened, but he nodded. I came to propose a deal. You stay on your side of the line. I stay on mine. We don't interfere with each other's operations. Why would I agree to that? Maggie asked. Seems like we're winning this war. Because I've got 50 men I can call in, Carl said bluntly. And the marshal's ready to raid you the moment I give him probable cause. You hurt me, but you did not break me. I can still crush you. He paused. But it would cost me more than it's worth. So I'm offering peace, unless you want to keep bleeding until one of us is dead. Maggie considered this. Kate could see her weighing options, calculating odds. Finally, she nodded slowly. Territory gets divided. We stay on our side, you stay on yours. Any violation, the deal is off. Maggie shook it, the gesture sealing the truce. Carl looked at Kate and Cole.
You've got loyal people. That's rare in this business.
He mounted his horse and rode off without further words. After he left, Kate let out a breath she had not realized she was holding. Did we just make peace with someone who tried to kill us? Welcome to the border trade, Maggie said dryly. Today's enemy is tomorrow's uneasy partner. She looked at both of them. We bought ourselves time and space. Now we use it to build something stronger. The weeks that followed were the most peaceful Kate had experienced since arriving at the ranch. Border runs resumed following new routes that avoided Carl's territory. Legitimate customers slowly returned, reassured by the truce. Money started flowing again. Kate found herself settling into the rhythm of the life. The constant danger became familiar rather than terrifying. She learned to read the desert like Cole, to judge horses like Maggie, to shoot straight when it mattered. The work was hard and the stakes were high, but she had never felt more alive. 4 months after the truce, on a rare, quiet evening, Kate sat on the porch watching the sunset paint the desert in impossible colors. Cole joined her. 2 cups of coffee in hand, he offered one, and they sat in comfortable silence. You ever think about your old life? Cole asked, eventually. Kate considered the question. Sometimes. But it feels like it happened to someone else. She sipped her coffee. The woman who stood on that auction block is gone. I'm not sure I'd recognize her anymore. Cole nodded, understanding. I know what you mean. Sometimes I can barely remember who I was before I started running. He was quiet for a moment. For what it's worth, I'm glad I bid on your contract that day. You've been a good partner. Kate felt warmth spread through her chest. Coming from Cole, that was high praise indeed. I'm glad you did too. This life is brutal and dangerous, but it's mine. That's worth something. They finished their coffee as the last light faded from the sky. Stars emerged one by one, the same stars that had guided them through countless dangerous journeys. Kate thought about everything that had happened since that day in Redemption, the fear and desperation, the violence and survival, the gradual building of trust and respect. She had been offered at half price, considered worthless and dangerous. No one had dared bid except one lone cowboy who saw potential instead of problems. That single act had changed everything, given her a chance to prove herself. To find a place in the world where her strength was valued instead of feared. Maggie came out to join them, settling into her usual chair with a satisfied sigh. Good day, she pronounced. Trained 3 horses, made 2 sales, and the scouts report clear routes for tomorrow's run. She looked at Kate and Cole. We've built something real here. Something worth protecting. Kate raised her coffee cup in a silent toast. Cole and Maggie did the same. 3 people who had nowhere else to go, who had found each other in the harsh border country and built a life from danger and determination. It was not the life any of them had planned, but it was theirs. The desert stretched endlessly around them, beautiful and merciless. Somewhere out there, new dangers waited. The law. The cartels. Competitors and storms and 100 other threats that came with living on the edge of civilization. But Kate Morrison was not afraid anymore. She had been tested and not found wanting, had proven she could survive anything this brutal land threw at her. She was no longer the desperate woman standing on an auction block. She was something harder, something dangerous in her own right. As the night settled fully around them, Kate felt a deep sense of belonging. This was where she was meant to be, with these people, in this place. Living this impossible life that should have killed her but had instead made her stronger. The stars wheeled overhead, ancient and indifferent. The desert breathed around them, patient and eternal. And on a ramshackle ranch that hid more than it showed, 3 people sat in companionable silence, ready for whatever came next, because in the end they had learned the most important lesson the border country had to teach. Survival was not about avoiding danger. It was about facing it head-on, with trusted people at your side and a willingness to do whatever it took to protect what mattered. Kate Morrison had been offered at half price, and no one had dared bid, until one lone cowboy lifted his hand and changed everything. Now she understood why. Cole Barrett had not seen a broken woman. He had seen a survivor, a fighter, someone who would stand when others fell. And he had been right.